Good afternoon, friends. I am Ajit, and you are watching OpIndia. Today, we are going to talk to a Manchurian person who has been fighting this struggle for their independence. Many of you, or I think 99.9% of you, might have never heard about this issue of independence of Manchuria. Manchuria is in northeastern part of China, and China has been pushing this strategy of one China, one language, and this whole political propaganda that we know about. But in fact, the actual thing is that they have been grabbing the land of East Turkestan, then Tibet, then Taiwan, then there is Hong Kong, you have Ladakh, you have Arunachal Pradesh, and recently they have grabbed lands of Nepal, 33 hectare of land they have grabbed yesterday itself. So this whole issue of Chinese expansionist policy and how it is affecting several linguistic or ethnic minorities, or maybe say they are not even minority if you plot the map and the whole region of it. They are not minorities, but they were resource rich places which have been conquered by several dynasties. At first, if I am talking about Manchuria, it was conquered by Japanese in 1931. Then it was again conquered by Russian Soviet invasion army in 1945, and subsequently it was handed over to Chinese people. So we are going to talk about the historical aspect of it. What is the struggle of independence and why they want self-determination? What is this whole question of self-identification, the preservation of language and identity? I have connected to, while I stumbled upon Mr. Bernhardt Silergi, who lives in Munich, Germany, and he wants to talk about this whole independence movement and how he's organizing people and how this movement has started, or say taking baby steps. So I welcome Mr. Silergi to our talk, and let's hear him out. A very good afternoon from India, Mr. Bernhardt Silergi. And as I have told my viewers in the introduction, that this whole freedom movement of Manchuria that you have been talking about, and some of your friends on Facebook and Twitter mainly, that have gone through your page, and then I went to know a bit about the history of the region. Maybe you will be able to talk more about it, but roughly to my viewers, I would like to say that it was invaded by Japan in 1930s, precisely in 31. Then Manchuria declared independence in 1932, February of 1932, and it was a very short-lived one. In 34, again Japanese occupied. Then it was invaded by Soviet army, and then it was handed over to China. So, but these are just the dates, and dates do not come with context of the pain or the anguish that the region or the people of Manchuria or the Manchurian people are going through. So please take us through this whole World War situation and your independence struggle since then. I mean, since the beginning of when Manchuria actually declared independence, and then it was then subjugated by other armies of maybe Japan or Soviets or Chinese. So let us start with the history of the region.
The history is regions. We all know that the last dynasty of China is the Qing dynasty, and Manchuria is their homeland in 17th centuries. And the Manchuria people invaded China and conquered the whole of China. And but in 1912, the Qing dynasty collapsed, and at that time, normally the Manchuria people should come went back to Manchuria and start up their own country, but the Chinese nationalists they changed their mind. They want to keep the full territory of the empire. So they cheated the royal family of Manchuria, and but after that, and we all know that the Mongolia, and Tibetan and East Turkestan, they all want to independence, because in Qing Dynasty, some kind of aliens, islands that Tibetans, Uyghurs, and the Mongolians are allies of the Manchu people, and China proper is eight provinces conquered area, and clearly there's a big difference. So, but the Chinese naturalists they 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 don't care about it. They just want the land. So the Manchuria people it takes about 20 years from the 1912 to 1932. Actually the independence struggles never stopped since the east part of the South Mongolians, the Kurchin clans, they have been related with the Manchu royal family by marriage, and in that 20 years, and they started many war against the uh, against the China's warlord in Manchuria. And interestingly, the Chinese warlord in Manchuria, they also don't regard the Manchuria as a part of the China, because they also want to keep their own independence. So in 1932, when the warlord, the separatist warlord, started to change the policy, they want to collaborate with the Chinese government and the Communist Party. So the local people started to overthrow this regime. So that is what happened. Just because of the following the afterwards the World War II started. The Japan declared war against the United States. So Japan and Manchuria are the loser side. So everything is everything has to be interpreted as something something bad, and so also the regime of Manchukuo is not a positive we have to promote. So it's got somehow stigmatized.
So during the World War, even when we talk about World War, it is never means we never hear of Manchuria. Why has it been? Maybe you guys fought for it, or you were a part of it somehow. Maybe Japanese army invaded it. There is no mention of Manchuria as such in World War literature. So how do you see that?
Yeah, because it's relatively it's a very peace land. We actually there's after the independence, about during this 12 years, and actually Manchuria didn't start the war against China or just invaded others. We just keep our own business, and for Japanese, they only want to develop the economy, and also during the World War II, the Asian battlefield. So mainly people's attention mainly focus on the Southeast Asia, but in the Northeast Asia, there were no large scale battles. So that's why it's very difficult for people to pay attention to this area. And also after the Japanese surrendered, and Manchuria was destroyed by the Soviet Union, and the Chinese government want to erase this part of history. So they wouldn't like to people know that there was an independence regime, and also a land that different from China. So we got this kind of deliberatory propaganda influence. So many people don't know what exactly Manchuria it is, and it's very interesting that nowadays in the USA, people would like to use this phrase Manchuria candy to indicate some kind of cheater.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, but in, in my view, it's very interesting because most of people didn't even know where Manchuria is,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
some of them even can't make difference between Manchuria and China. But actually,
Yeah.
those two things are different.
So I don't want to be insulting or anything, but we have a dish. We have Manchurian dishes in India, like
Yeah,
where
I know what.
yeah. So we generally say it comes under Chinese menu. So
Yeah.
even I had no idea that Manchuria is a separate entity and
uh,
that was grabbed by Chinese. So please pardon me for that. And
no, no
now
problem. Yeah.
I'm now more knowledgeable about it. So another thing is why independence. One thing is about this self identity or self governance and these all other aspect of independence. When any region wants independence, it is generally if they are ignored or there are atrocities committed on the people of that particular region. So
Mm,
what are your reasons for this whole independence struggle
okay.
that has been building up in last few years?
Yeah. And before answer this question, I can explain the Gobi Manchuria because I know
Yeah, yeah,
what exactly it is.
yes,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
very interesting. I know that it's kind of Indo-Chinese cuisine. Yeah,
Mhm,
and actually it's maybe brought by the Chinese immigrants in India, but
mhm.
they just borrow the name from Manchuria. Because
Okay,
In Manchuria or in China, we don't have this kind of dishes.
okay.
And yeah, I know there's in India that this kind of anti-China sentiment has been
Mhm,
rising. Yeah,
mhm,
and maybe I can give an advice because this kind of dishes has already been part of Indian culture,
yeah,
and
yeah.
also the name is not Chinese, so I would say you can just enjoy it. It's no problem. And
Thank
it's
you.
also a good chance. It is also a good chance to say that okay, this is Gobi Manchuria, it's not Gobi Chinese.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
We should tell people that this is not Chinese cuisine, and
Mhm,
we all know that. And because this is different, maybe I can make an example in World War II that we all know that
mhm,
Hamburg is
mhm,
origin uh, from the from the great German immigrants. They invented it,
mhm, mhm,
and during the World War II, and the Americans started to indicate the hamburgers with the name of the Liberty Sandwich.
mhm.
Yeah, because of the name. Yeah, I totally understand this kind of sentiment.
Mhm.
But for Gobi Manchurias, you have no worries because it's not Chinese. The
Okay,
name is not
okay,
Chinese. Yeah.
okay.
So
Yeah, so the
so
reasons
I
for independence.
yeah
Why
yeah
independence
okay
and why now? Yeah.
yeah because the atrocities as started just after the fall of Manchuria, the fall of
Mhm,
Manchukuo, because in 1946 Manchuria was handed over to China, but
mhm,
handed over to the ROC China, the Republic of China, and
mhm,
then the China Civil War started, and they have started the battles in Manchuria,
mhm,
and in 1948 the siege of Changchun started because Changchun was once of the capital of Manchuria. It's a very strategical city in the
mhm,
whole of Manchuria. So
mhm,
both sides, the CCP and KMT,
mhm,
they want to they started a big battle there. But the Communist Party they wouldn't like uh, to start a strong fight against the KMT. They just staged the city for almost 5 months. They cut
mhm,
the food supply to the city, and but inside the city there are around tens of tens of thousands of civilians. They are former Manchurian citizens, and the Republic of China army they also cut the food supply because they don't have enough food for the civilians. So both sides actually cut the food supply, and it's caused about 150 civilians deaths because of starvation. And this it's also reported by the John Parfit by the Associated Press. I can send you the link later. And yeah, it's clear that because the Changchun, the citizens of Manchuria, they have no political connection to the Chinese, so they can just live there alone and let them to die. Or they don't care about the life or death of them. And after that, when CCP seized the regime, they started land reform, the anti right wing, also the Cultural Revolution, a series of the political movements. I maybe countless former Manchukuo citizens has been I don't know what they couldn't be treated well during this series of the political treatment, and we all know that many landlords were condemned to death during this land reform movement. And for example, like when Puyi got arrested by the Chinese, and he has to confess his guilty, and last he died in Beijing, and just before the Cultural Revolution. I can't imagine what happened to him when if he live until the Cultural Revolution. So he would be tortured unthinkably. Yeah. And during and in 1980s, and China started to start the open and reform policy, and they started to pay attention to the southeast coast. And for Manchuria, they treated it as just as a bread basket. So because many industry workers are forced to lay off, and people get depressed. Many of them just suicide. So that's why the Falun Gong is very popular in Manchuria, because people got depressed and they have no hope for the future, and they need to some comfort from some kind of religion. And in this 70 years, and China continues to plunder of the natural resources in Manchuria. And because Manchuria has the largest black land in the world, and it's very it's a kind of very rich soil, and so and there are also many white land in Manchuria. So at that time, the Mao Zedong he started a slogan that changed the Great Northern Wasteland into the Great Northern granary of China. It means that in their eyes, in eyes of Chinese, that this kind of wetland is just a wasteland. They want to change this kind of white land into the
granary,
cultivate land. Yeah.
Cultivate.
But this caused a lot of heavy damage of the ecosystem, because we all know that the wetland play a crucial role in the ecosystem. But in the Chinese only care about the resources in Manchuria, and also the world famous oil field, the Daqing oil field, in the last 30 years, and the production is about 17.6 billion barrels in the last 60 years. It's equal to 800,000 barrels a day. This kind of production is as many as the Indians.
Okay.
Yeah. But all these resources just looted by Chinese, and they left nothing in Manchuria. and Manchuria becomes this kind of Rust Belt of China, and other parts of Chinese, they would they would say Manchuria is some kind of uh, lower developed area. So
Mm-hmm.
they would say Manchuria as a burden of China, because Manchuria, okay, Manchuria, the economy is not very good, and we don't like Manchuria. And when China encounters some difficulties, that they would blame Manchuria. So we feel very, but Manchuria feel irrelevant to China in many fields. But we got long-term ignored, and atrocities is going on, and the unsafe identity has been cleansed. All this, all this made us to find a way out, and the struggle of Uyghurs and Tibetans, they
Mm-hmm.
enlightened us, and we all know, okay, thanks to the internet, we can get to know what happened in the world, uh,
Mm-hmm.
what happened to Uyghurs and Tibetans. So Manchuria also started this kind of movement. I would
Mm-hmm.
say this kind of movement is just at the babyhood stage. So it just started, but
Mm-hmm.
but uh, uh, but in with but within more time, I think we can more
Yeah,
people
every
would
yeah,
know this.
every movement starts like this only. And as far
Yeah,
as the thing self identity goes, like the
yeah,
cultural aspect of it,
yeah.
or as we were talking earlier, the language aspect of it. So
Mm-hmm.
as you said that not many people know the Manchur language.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Manchur people who are exiled or living elsewhere, they don't know about it. So just please elaborate on the linguistic and cultural aspect of Manchuria, and how and why it is not known outside. Do your parents try to teach it to you, or has the whole language and script been, maybe it has vanished, or does it has is it surviving somewhere, or people try
Mm-hmm.
to speak about it? Just let us tell about that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Uh, yeah, Manchu language is indeed in danger, but still there are some people still speak it. And
Mm-hmm.
in East Turkestan, because around tens of thousands of people, they are distance of the Manchu army. They because they stand there, and they live there. But the language is well preserved, and there tens of thousands of people can still speak Manchu in East Turkestan. And
Mm-hmm.
in Manchuria, in the last 20 years, and people started to try to revive this language. Some young people started to learn it, and
Mm-hmm.
and we got and they have uh, plenty of the uh, they have plenty of resources for this kind of language, and they have started courses online.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we would say more people speak Manchu language on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and also to build up from that, how strong is this movement at present? How many people have you all gathered, and what is the general talk in the Twitterverse, or say on any online platform? Do you guys interact with each other? Do you guys have any formally organized union, or something, means a movement kind of thing? How do you
Mhm.
guys organize these things, or celebrate your Independence Day? That was in February of 1932. So do you have this monthly or any gatherings of such kind? Have you ever gone to Geneva or UN, or tried to appeal to these bodies, or it is just starting as of now?
As I say, as I said, it's just starting.
Hmm.
We have many people on Twitter, and
Okay.
they because it's very dangerous for people in China, especially
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they
I know
can't.
that.
They can't
I
speak
will
it
just
openly.
I will just quote one example. I have been to Beijing, and
Yeah.
there was I used to work for ByteDance, the company that
Mm,
owns TikTok. So
yeah.
we went to Beijing, and there was this one Chinese employee there, and she had a very deep scar here on her
Oh.
throat. So I asked, we inquired about the whole incident, and then when she was drunk, and then confided into us, and then she started talking about it that she wrote a blog criticizing Chinese Communist Party, and the next day she was kidnapped, in a way abducted, and
Mm,
her throat was slit, means not a deep cut but just to teach
yeah.
her a lesson. And they
Yeah.
said that if you write it again you will vanish, and there are many people who have actually vanished from China. So I can understand that fear that you are talking about.
Yeah. So that's why in China, people, I think Manchurians, they can't uh, speak the Manchurian, speak up for Manchuria, or they advocate the independence of Manchuria. But
Mhm.
but but at least they can study Manchu language,
Mhm.
because now the CCP wouldn't forbidden people to study Manchu language, because they say that
Mhm.
Manchuria has been dead totally, so they don't. Uh, I think the CCP won't worried about the Manchu language for the
Mhm.
time being. It's
Mhm.
also good for Manchu language. So,
Mhm.
but overseas, and I think Manchurians all started to advocate independence on the internet, and
Mhm.
the problem is that we all we are not concentrated in one place. We are well around the world, and
Mhm.
for the offline activity, it's very difficult for us.
Mhm.
And for me, I am living in Munich, and I also joined the protest together with the Hong Kong people,
Mhm.
Tibetans, and the Uyghurs. And
Mhm.
we have a weekly info desk for Uyghurs. I will join every week.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I think during this kind of activities, I can make materials known to other
Yeah.
people, especially the Westerners. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And
Hopefully, I can get a chance to the like a big platform like some, and introduce material to others. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that was the main reason when I tried to talk to you, because
Yeah.
somebody, when we were researching on whole this Chinese expansionist approach and what are the lands they have grabbed, and then we stuck on this Manchuria, and then we tried to find out if there is an independence struggle going on. Are there people talking about it? Then I came across your name and the Twitter handle.
Yeah.
So it is very important that if you guys are starting, and the world must know the condition of people in several territories of China, say from Taiwan to Hong Kong to Tibet to East Turkestan to
Yeah.
Manchuria, and even parts of Mongolia. So
Yeah.
they have grabbed the land. So just talk about this whole expansionist approach of China. Why do they do it? Maybe you might know about it, or what do you think? Why do they keep on doing it? Means, say, for why are they grabbing the land of Nepal? For God's sake, what will they do
Yeah.
about it? There is no
Because
reason to do that. Is
yeah.
it just habitual, like they do in South China Sea, trying to poke their nose into everyone else's affairs? What is this with Chinese guys?
I think the problems come from the ideology, the
Hmm.
Chinese imperialism. As in this kind of logic, that once 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 the regime sees China,
Hmm.
and normally China is always conquered by the nomadic people,
Hmm.
and when they came to China, and they they are very easily got corrupted by the Chinese culture, and
Hmm.
they lose their and like the like many like the many emperors in history, and the Chinese emperor, they try to declare that they are the governors of the around tribes or around the nation states of the. So this kind of system is not not as simple as the modern Chinese uh, as see, uh,
Mhm.
because in Tibetan and East Turkestan and Mongolia, to Manchu royal family, they are allies.
Mhm.
They are not conquered land. And
Mhm.
but the China proper, in 17th centuries,
Mhm.
it is conquered by Manchu people. These are some kind of conquer land, and the Manchu family will settle uh, viceroys in this 18 province.
Mhm.
But when Chinese nationalists overthrew the Qing dynasty,
Mhm.
they take place of the Manchu royal family, and they started to claim the legitimacy uh, to to the Tibetan and East Turkestan, but it totally makes no sense, because before the invasion of the Manchu people, China is just the territory of Ming Dynasty
Mhm.
without Tibetan and East Turkestan or Mongolia.
Mhm.
But now they want to sustain this empire.
Mhm.
So they invented this kind of concepts that the Chinese nation actually is
Mhm.
a fake nation. It's not a nation. China is
Mhm.
not a nation state. Nation state. China is still empire, like and China is as large as the whole of Europe, but
Mhm.
there only one regime, one language, one ling- uh, one official language.
Mhm.
But in Europe, there are 27 languages and
Mhm.
many countries.
Mhm.
So if we can't fight against this kind of Chinese imperialism,
Mhm.
uh, it will be like a bismuth.
Mhm.
They will say any independent nations around it
Mhm.
as a threat, because
Mhm.
during this kind of invasion or expansion, like southern part of China, near to Vietnam and other Southeast countries, the people living there have more closer connections to the Southeast Asians actually.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there's I would say there's not really true Chinese in the concept of
Mhm.
the 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 concept of
It is
the
just a political propaganda. This whole
yeah
one China
yeah
policy. It is as
but
diverse as say India. If we take the whole land,
yeah
India has 28 states and eight union territories. So
yeah
it is like that. We have 22 official languages in all and several dialects. Means we have
mhm,
1700
yeah
recognized languages in
yeah
India, and we coexist because government is not as such that let us ignore that part, let us drill
yeah
holes into their ground and get oil out of it and then ignore it at all and commit atrocities like they are committing on Uyghurs and others.
mm.
Uh, Building on to that question and last question, how do you see Xi Jinping's leadership in whole this thing? He has made this constitutional amendment, and basically he's a dictator now. It
Yeah
is not communism in the actual sense of the word. He's a brutal dictator, and he has been killing and murdering people and territories and whole ethnic minorities like Uyghurs. Uyghurs is what people have come to know about. We don't know the issues of Manchuria. We don't know what they are doing in East Turkestan, or even on Taiwanese people. We don't come to know about it because of this whole bamboo curtain aspect of China. How do you see Xi Jinping's leadership in whole of that?
Yeah, I would say every Communist Party leader is a dictator. Is
Yeah, yeah,
dictators.
yeah, yeah.
Just because when we encountered Xi Jinping, and meanwhile the Empire of China is can't be can't be sustainable anymore. They have their many internal structural problems, the contradictions. All this has been growing, and the whole system is unsustainable. So, so for Xi Jinping, he's not very wise leader, because the former leader of Communist Party, they have they have encountered the battlefield, and they know the difficulties of struggles, but they know that this kind of propaganda is just for the people, but themselves they didn't go full by themselves. But for Xi Jinping, he's a second generation of the Communist Party. Actually, he's a second generation of the Communist Party, and he didn't encounter the brutal battlefield, and he didn't know the difficulty of the struggles, because without the support of the Soviet Union, and the CCP has 0% of the possibility to seize the whole of China. So they thought that Xi Jinping thought Communist Party would have their own strengths, but actually in the last 70 years, China has been heavily rely on the foreign forces. Actually, in the early years, and it rely on the Soviet Union, and since the 1970s to till now, China rely on the Western forces, especially when China restored the relationship with the United States, and China got a chance to accept it by the world supply chain. And that's made China can survive till now. But now the China even have started the trade war against the United States. So the turning point has come, and so the old good time for China has been stopped, has been terminated. So before us is a new area, and this is the second Cold War area, and most people haven't realized it, especially the Europeans. They still want to keep this kind of good relations with China, and they want to benefit from this kind of economy relations. But actually, the whole of the world supply chain has moved out from China and to Vietnam, to India, and it's a shuffle time of the world order. And back to 70 years ago, and the United States and also anti-fascism alliance, they focus on the importance on the West Europe, because they realized that after the Germany surrender, and the Soviet Union would rise, and they didn't pay enough attention to the East Asia. So that's why the communist forces can capture the Manchuria, and the following they overrun the whole of East Asia, and also the Vietnam become a communist country, and after that, in 1950s, the United States had to start the Korean War in Northeast Asia, and later in 1970s, the Vietnam War. They are also the aftermath of the World War II in the East area. But now, and the United States proposed the Indo-Pacific strategy. It's like we should have form a free alliance against China, like India, Japan, and Australia, and these countries.
Malabar exercise and all.
Yeah. But in 1930s, to 1940s, the Japanese also proposed idea that Great East Area co-prosperity sphere. But at that time, they started this kind of idea, but it was terminated because of the fall of the Trend. But after 70 years, this the similar idea also comes out. So I would say the path of the history is still move on, and no matter how many obstacles during it, and it will go in the one determined direction. Yeah. And
okay. So at last, I would like you to address your fellow Manchur people, and if you have any message for them, and where they should unite and where they should come, and what is your Twitter handle of this whole struggle, and where they can find you on Facebook. Just let them know so that they can gather around you and they can form a mass movement and take this forward.
Yeah, for them, they can feel free to contact me on Twitter or Facebook, and I would say, my fellow Manchurians, first we should restore our language, and we should distinguish us from Chinese. So that's why. So then people can notice us, and maybe it's dangerous for us to speak Manchuria independence out, but at least we can first restore our culture. I don't force any others like me to have to say free Manchuria or something else. I don't force others to do it, but I can say first we should restore our culture. When enough people realize that we have different self-identity and culture, and people will start to ask for the independence, ask for freedom, and we can only protect our human rights, property, and the environment of Manchuria only when Manchuria be independent. But first step, restore our culture and the language.
Thank you so much for talking to OpIndia and taking time out, Mr. Silergi. And maybe when your movement gets steam and you must feel free to contact us or me. You can reach out to me at any time of if you get any issues like that, and we will talk about, and we will try to help put your masses across the world in at least 2 languages that I know, English and Hindi. And once again, I thank you for taking time out and conveying your message to the world.
Thank you very much for the interview.